center of the Earth. Science calls it the core. Legend calls it hell. Somewhere between the two lies man's imagination. It is man's blessing to explore his world, and his curse that he is never satisfied with what he finds. Astonishingly, even as we have probed the edge of our solar system, we have only penetrated our own planet's crust by a handful of miles. The Earth itself poses a formidable obstacle. What scientists call the Earth's core begins approximately 1,800 miles straight down and reaches a temperature of 9,000 degrees Fahrenheit at its molten nickel-iron center, a scalding link to our cosmic creation. The center of the Earth is one of mankind's greatest untapped mysteries, hypnotically enticing, eternally elusive. 130 years ago, Jules Verne fantasized that the center of the Earth was not an inferno, but rather a habitable place, a place that could be explored. And explore it he did, in 1864, with words. And now we will explore it as well, with words and sounds, as we embark on a journey to the center of the Earth.
In a moment, Leonard Nimoy. Hello, everybody. I'm Art Bell, and this is Coast to Coast AM, and what you just heard came from Leonard Nimoy's Journey to the Center of the Earth, which is a 2-CD audio book by Simon & Schuster, available from Simon & Schuster. He also has available The Time Machine, and you know me and time, so it was kind of a toss-up. Both of these 2-CD sets available from Simon & Schuster. In a moment, Leonard Nimoy, here for only a very short time, unfortunately, so we will pummel him with questions. Oh, I shouldn't have to introduce him. This is Leonard Nimoy. Leonard, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. We have such a short time that I feel obligated to literally pummel you with questions.
Okay, go.
All right. The character Mr. Spock came along in a time in our country of peace, love, Woodstock, sex, drugs, rock and roll. Let it all hang out, that kind of time.
Right.
And yet, Spock was the picture of the very essence of self-control, self-denial, self-governance. How could that character have become such a hero in such an uncontrolled atmosphere?
Well, it's a great question. I think, for one thing, the time was one where so many people were becoming cynical about government and authority figures. It was clear that bureaucracy was not responding to the individual, and the war in Vietnam was ongoing, in spite of the fact that more and more people every day believed that it was wrong. We all believed in supporting our country, but we believed that we shouldn't be in that war. And here came a character who had a dignity and integrity and intelligence. I think the sense was that this was a person that you could believe and count on, that wouldn't be involved with hypocrisy, duplicity.
There was a hunger then.
Yeah, oh yeah, I think so. I think he served the great hunger, absolutely. And I think too that we were ready for the idea of a friendly alien.
Well, that's right. How do you feel, by the way, about the role itself? You'll be Mr. Spock, of course, forever. Do you ever get resentful of that?
No, I'm very comfortable with it. That's why the last book that I wrote, I Am Spock, is titled the way it is. I've really come full circle with it, and I'm totally comfortable.
Do you think that Gene Roddenberry would approve of the repeat direction and usage of original characters that have been now exhaustively repeated in, so many other knockoffs?
Well, I don't think Gene had any problem with perpetuating Star Trek. I think he would always enjoy the idea of the success of the franchise. But I do think that he would be at least interested in seeing that the thematic ideas were strong. That's what Star Trek really is about when it's at its best. Is the thematic ideas. It should be great entertainment, great adventure, but it should be about something.
Yes, and Star Trek always was. Is it moving away from that slowly, the knockoffs?
Well, I got to be honest with you. I don't watch enough of it to pass judgment. I feel very good about what we did. I feel very good about the TV shows and the movies that I was involved with. I've seen Generations, and I've seen Contact, and I'm not really sure that they are stories that I would have set out to do as major motion pictures.
So your reaction to Contact was not...
I think it's very well done, very well executed. I'm just not...
Where was the story?
I wasn't blown away with the story, exactly.
Let's go back to Star Trek for a second. Do you remember the gentleman, and I cannot, who was originally cast as a captain of the Enterprise, Christopher Pike? Oh,
yeah, it was Jeffrey Hunter.
And what happened to him?
Well, Jeffrey Hunter was an important movie star. He was a very great gentleman and a fine actor. He did the first pilot as Captain Pike, and then about a year later, when NBC and Desi Lee decided they wanted to make a second pilot, he simply wasn't available. I'm not sure whether he had another job or whether the negotiations with him got too tough or whatever.
That was later brought back as a menagerie, wasn't it?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you've really already answered this, but with respect to your answer on Contact. But otherwise, other television programs, movies, and so forth, has anything come close to the genre of Star Trek?
Well, what an interesting question. I saw a few episodes of Outer Limits that I thought were very interesting. I think X-Files has a great kind of internal life going on. It has a certain kind of style, and it has an attitude. And I think that's very important. I think Babylon 5 has an attitude that works at times. That's pretty much it as far as I'm concerned. So I mean, in my range of experience.
A very trivial question, but important to me nevertheless. In the early episodes, many years actually, of Star Trek, the women, the ensigns, all had these wonderful uniforms that in later years changed to pants. Who did that?
I don't know, but you're touching on a very interesting point. The science fiction for a long time was a sub-genre. It was considered a distant cousin of important work. And in fact, when I started acting in science fiction 45 years ago, if you can believe it, in a Saturday afternoon serial called Zombies of the Stratosphere, science fiction was a genre in which you saw monsters, you saw people in strange outfits who came from other worlds, and you saw ladies who were scantily dressed.
Yes. And
there was always some sexy aspect to it. And that was what you saw in the early days of Star Trek. There were the women were. I think Bill Tice did a brilliant job of dressing or nearly dressing some of the ladies. And then later on, I guess political correctness and feminism came on the scene, and there was some question about whether or not these women shouldn't be wearing more clothes in their professional situations, and that's what happened.
I'm not sure, but I think it's also perhaps as the airline stewardesses began to get older too.
Yeah, well, that could be. Yeah.
Where did the idea of the all-famous Vulcan mind meld come from?
We were doing an episode called, I believe, Dagger of the Mind. And there was an actor playing a character who was mentally deranged. And he had information that we had to have. And the scene, as it was written, was a kind of a tedious interrogation scene where I asked him a lot of questions and got information from him piecemeal, a word here and a word there, and it wasn't as dramatic as it might be. And Gene Roddenberry came up with this idea that Vulcans could do this mating of the minds and extract the information that way. It was kind of a Vulcan version of hypnosis. And it made for a much more dramatic way of getting the information and became a very useful tool for the Spock character.
I remember clearly, and I saw every single episode and every single movie, and I remember when you died. I remember when your casket, I thought, flashed and burned in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
What was it like to be killed off?
I had a tough time with it. I took the job because, frankly, I believed that might be the last Star Trek movie. And I thought, why not go out in a flash and a blaze of glory, saving the Enterprise and the crew, and dying in the process. I really thought this might be the last film. By the time we got around to shooting the final scene, the goodbye scene, where I'm saying goodbye to Captain Kirk, I had the sense that the movie was going to work. And I thought, if this movie is as good as I think it is, there are going to be more. And I began to have second thoughts about what I had done. But the die was cast, and I was a little late. It was a little too late to do anything about it, except that on the day we were shooting that scene, Harv Bennett came down on the set and said, do you think that you could do something in this scene that would give us a thread to pick up if there is another movie?